Want to welcome you to the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. We're here every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. At the website, thebibleforum.net. You can watch, you can call in, you can chat, you can do all sorts of things. And we just talk about issues from a biblical point of view. This evening, I wanted to talk to you about Rick Santorum. Rick Santorum has written an article. He says America will never be whole if it continues to kill its children in abortion. Rick Santorum ran for office president last time around. He makes every indication that he's going to do it this time around as well. He has a slew of children. He's Roman Catholic. He has a bunch of kids. One is at least special needs, and I'm sure he loves children. People who come out against abortion are usually mocked, they're usually put down, they're shouted down, they're told to go sit down, things of that nature, because clearly it's an important issue for women. And if men talk about it, they even get double the criticism. But one of the issues that comes up all the time has to do with what was going on in this country before the Supreme Court said it was okay for women to have abortions. And they talk about the back alley abortions and how women died in this country. Do you know what the reality is? And I've maintained this for years, and I have statistics to back it up tonight. But abortion was legal in America before Roe v. Wade. It just wasn't legal on demand. That was what changed. And did you know in 1972, the year before Roe v. Wade, that 39 women died as a result of illegal abortions? Did you know that? 39 women died. We're led to believe it's millions. The women are dying every day. And I don't want to minimize 39 deaths. But in that same year, 24 women died as a result of legal abortions. Abortions are dangerous to women. Roe v. Wade was the result of our corporate selfism. It had nothing to do with science. It was not essential. Abortions were already legal. It wasn't that you could just walk in and say, I'd like to have one. And what was it in our society that drove us to the place where women started to say, I want to kill my baby? Do you know what you have to do in order to get yourself to the place where you're willing, as a woman, a mother, to kill your child? What we do is we encourage you to get to the abortion factory before the child reaches a level where you can feel it moving. And upwards, I think, of 70%, maybe more than that, are being done by abortion mills, things not connected to the doctor's office, not connected to the hospital, but are just places where you go for an abortion. And Planned Parenthood runs most of them. They're getting shut down all over the country because they're really not safe and they're not doing right. Abortion began in the minds and the hearts of Americans back in the 1950s and the 1960s. It became a more viable option as a result of birth control pills. Birth control pills came in the early, mid, late 60s, in that range. We'll call it the mid 60s. And here you had pills a woman could take to keep from getting pregnant, which allowed her to go out and be able to get a job in the market. She was more marketable. Prior to that, a woman could suddenly be out of commission. She got pregnant. Employers were not big on hiring people who at any time could just come down with a 2 or 3 month illness, as it were. All of this came together around the women's lib movement in the latter part of the 60s, where women were convincing themselves and others that they didn't need a man, that women were every bit as good as a man and they could raise a family. They didn't need a man. They could earn a living. They didn't need a man. On and on this went. And so by 1969, we had a Supreme Court decision that allowed for no-fault divorces. You see where this is going? No-fault divorce is basically divorce on demand. There's no burden of proof that was necessary. There were just two people who said, we don't want to be together anymore. In many states here in North Carolina, it meant a year's separation. You couldn't just go get a divorce. You had to be separated for at least a year. As a result of that, divorce rates did not skyrocket. The rate stayed just about the same, 25%. What did happen was that there was more equitable distribution. There was no burden of proof. And so if there was a party in that relationship that was really at the short end of the stick, they didn't get the recourse they used to have. But what it did to the institution of marriage was to put it in our minds that it's not necessary, that it's not critical, that it's not essential. I can raise this child on my own. No, you can't. Well, you know, I know people who've done it. Yeah, I do too. But you can't do it. No woman in the world can raise a son. No man in the world can raise a daughter. I read an article, I think I read it to my audience, where a girl said, I had pain in my heart and grieved every single day. Growing up in a lesbian household, she grieved because she had no father. And growing up with two women like that who really had a problem with men, she got a distorted view of men. And it colored and corrupted her in a way that was destructive. She had to overcome all of this. We live in a society now where marriage is not a commitment. I can get out of it whenever I want. There's no commitment to the institution of marriage. And now there is no commitment to an unborn child. Moving along, we got to this abortion issue. And the Supreme saw drawings of what the embryo looked like in the first trimester. And it looked like any other mammal in that first 3-month period. But it was an estimate. It was a guesstimate. Nobody had ever really seen it until we got the sonograms. And then we find out it's not like that at all. Not like that at all. And then we pushed it up so that we could get it after the second trimester. And then we pushed it up so we could get it all the way up to the time of delivery. And then we pushed it up to where we could destroy the child after it was born. We're animals. It's selfism. In the course of all of this, with birth control, with abortion on demand, and the vast majority of the women who get abortions are getting them because they've been sexually active and they don't want to be pregnant. We got to the place where sex became entertainment. And like sugar to an infant, it's addictive. And now there's no legal penalty. There's no physical penalty. And there's no shame. And to many people, there's no cost. Add into that mix illegal drugs or legal drugs. We've got a whole society on drugs. I heard just the other day how guns kill people. And they pointed to several illustrations of mass murder. Each one of them had been on psychiatric medication. Psychiatric medication is not the problem, it's that gun. That's just stupid. It might have been the gun. But you got to factor in the psychiatric problem, or at least the medication. Then you add sensual music and sensual mediums of all sorts, movies and internet and all the rest of it. And then we legalize pornography. Can't even define obscenity anymore. Never been able to define pornography. It's regulated, got to be over 18, but it continues to flourish as a right. People have a right to this. And then we got child pornography. 1977, the Department of Justice endorsed endorsed legislation to ban the production and distribution of child pornography. But in 1982, the High Court protected child porn as free speech, with states deciding what is the age of consent. There we go on. How many types of pornography existed as protected speech in the United States? How many forms are morally healthy for any society? 0. And the point, same-sex marriage is just the next logical product of an immoral society driven by selfish desire. You got fancy legal terms, court decisions, but it can't change the reality. We now have several generations who have been morally corrupted by these sophisticated arguments and decisions. And now add the internet. You can add the internet on your phone. I watch television on my phone. I watch news on my phone. Kids watch pornography on their phone. You can't stop this stuff. We've got young teenagers who are taking pictures of themselves naked, sexually provocative, and sending them out. We call them selfies now. And then they're upset when those make it onto the web and everybody gets to, well, it was private, that was just for Billy. Billy's a pig. Family Hour on television is filled with sexually suggestive images and concepts. We talked this evening earlier of the Disney ABC coming out with a new so-called situation comedy surrounding Dan Savage and his awful, immoral, terrible philosophy of life and so forth. So, why not denigrate and despoil the only social institution known to mankind that can protect and strengthen a society? Why not go after the family? Nobody cares. They don't care because they don't understand. You can thank your state and federal education system for that. You can thank the media for that. You can thank the immoral or amoral judges and government representatives for that. We even have a Princeton professor. We've talked about this guy for years. His name is Pete Singer. He says, kill them all. He thinks you should be able to kill your baby within, I think it's 2 or 3 months after it's born. In a recent radio interview, and he's a Princeton University ethics professor, he argued that it was reasonable for government or private insurance companies to deny treatment to severely disabled babies. You see? Now, his mother got sick and needed a serious operation. That was okay. He'd argued little babies and old people, kill them all. But his mom, she was an exception. This is the life we live. This is where we are. This is how it works. There's a statistic, I'm trying to get the Guttmacher Institute asked the question, why do women have abortions in the first place? 74% said having a baby would interfere with work, school, or other responsibilities. Reasonable, isn't it? 73% said they couldn't afford to have a child. Why? Well, see the first one. It would interfere with work, school, and other responsibilities. 48% say they do not want to be a single parent or have relationship problems with husbands or partners, but they want to have sex. Less than 2% say they became pregnant as a result of rape or incest. 2%, as opposed to 74%. But when it comes up in court or comes up on the news, it's always about rape or incest. People have agendas. The people who push abortion, no-fault divorce, same-sex unions, they have a reason for it. And it's not because it's going to make the society better. That takes character. That takes a sense of responsibility, that you would be willing to limit your freedom for the greater good. That no longer exists anywhere in America.